Look back to the past and step forward into the future. This is Skull Babylon, and you're about to listen to episode 54 of Paradigm Shift Radio. This was a continued retrospect on some of the variety of topics covered in the last year of Paradigm Shift Radio in celebration of the official 1-year anniversary. On this episode, we touched upon the popular topics of indigo children, astral projection, some practical magic, Thoth, and more. At the end of the episode, our friend Jocelyn had some more Q&A for me regarding the Journey to Lucidity movie, which you can support and check out for yourself at the Indiegogo page. Help co-create Paradigm Shift Radio in its second year by being a part of the show. We are always looking for people to call in to be a part of the conversation or simply hang out in the live chat to make new friends. Paradigm Shift Radio is our show to assist in the evolution of consciousness. Help support it further by sharing it with your friends and get them involved with the Paradigm Shifty discussion. Like PSR at facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Radio, tune in for future episodes, and enjoy the show. Remember, it is not the years of your life. It is the life that is in your years that counts. And we here at Paradigm Shift Radio are celebrating our official 1-year anniversary here with episode 54. And this is your co-host, aka Brendon, aka Skull Babylon, reporting to you live from the present. Today is July 7th, 2013, and big shout out to everybody who is joining us right now in the live chat. This is a pretty exciting episode, guys, and I'd like to be able to really just get into things. Obviously, you know that we are doing this at a peculiar time. It is 12:30 in the morning. Normally here at Paradigm Shift Radio, we stick to a schedule that's around 11 p.m. EST regularly on Saturday. But with a lot of things going on in my life, which I'll tell you about in a second, just wanted to be able to push it back, but everything is where it needs to be, and it actually works out nice this way because literally July 7th is the first date of the very first episode of Paradigm Shift Radio, so opposed to starting this on July 6th at 11 p.m., we're literally starting it on July 7th, which syncs up, and if anybody is staying up late to listen to this, much gratitude for sticking by, and don't feel too bad if you just happen to fall asleep while listening to my voice. So if it happens, it happens. No big deal, and you can listen to the episode later. But like I said, we do have a lot going on. And if guys in the live chat just confirm for me that everything is sounding A-okay, and obviously anybody in the live chat who may be new or otherwise, please feel free to post your Facebook pages so that you can connect with each other, whether they be profile pages, whether they be actual pages of groups and communities that you're associated with. Feel free to post those in the link and consider that an open invite to anybody to be able to link up with you. So the main things off the top of the bat, facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Radio is the page that you want to go, and ParadigmShiftCentral.com is the other website, and facebook.com/Journey to Lucidity is where you can purchase the viewing access to the new movie that is getting some awesome reviews, the one that I'm very happy to share with you and that I put a lot of work into, and we'll probably be maybe having some questions on that later in on the show. I know we are going to be bringing on a couple of people. One of them is going to be Jocelyn, who was on the episode with us last episode of Paradigm Shift Radio, and you guys might remember, those of you who turned in, it sort of turned into a Q&A almost by the end of it. She just had a legitimate series of questions, so we're going to probably go in that direction again, in addition to doing a recap of a bunch of episodes to date, and we're going to go over more than 10. On the last episode, we got up to episode 10, but I got a feeling we're just going to keep pace and really steamroll through this. I do have the energy to definitely make sure that we keep on track with this and see how many we can get. And I'm not planning on having an episode 1-year celebration part 3. So if we can actually get up to where we are right now, that will be an awesome accomplishment. So guys, obviously, please continue to put the word out about the show if you're listening to it live right now. Just post a link on your page, but in addition to that, post up a sentence or even a couple sentences just explaining why it is important to you, why you're sharing it, and why you're inviting people to be able to tune into it. Because, what are we doing here at Paradigm Shift Radio? A lot of it is we're practicing talking about the things that they never really taught us in school. It wasn't something that, a lot of these ideas were some things that were encouraged by mainstream culture. So a lot of this stuff is things that we had to go out of our way for, things that we read in a lot of books, things that we've learned from wisdom passed down by our elders, and that's what we're really just trying to do here. We're trying to talk about the things that we don't normally get a chance to talk about, and we'll delve right into those topics as we start going through the episodes. I just wanted to mention to you guys what's new and exciting in my life, and this is part of the reason why we're starting the show a little bit later. And just excuse me as I take care of myself and just keep myself hydrated with some water here. So as I'm saying, today was a busy day for me. And basically, what I was doing today, I was down at Victoria Park, which is a local park here in the city. Any of you who have seen my videos, state the obvious, youtube.com/skullbabylon. There's a lot going on in my videos, and for those of you who are just listening to the radio show and you're not watching my videos, part of the story is unfolding there, so be sure to check those out when you have the chance to do that. And I put up a video yesterday talking about what I was doing the day before and what I was doing again today and what I'll be doing again tomorrow, and that's going around and giving people awesome buttons as I'm quoting them. Historically, I've referred to them as like consciousness shifting buttons. Those of you know exactly what I'm talking about. They are an assortment of buttons that I've put together using a variety of images from here and there. And basically, these images are meant to sort of provoke expanding ideas and get people to just sort of recognize things. Like, for example, you have the Eye of Horus, the Eye of Ra is one that is on some of the buttons that looks really good on a button. Lots of Mandela stuff, lots of sacred geometry stuff, the paradigm shift sigil itself, some really cool art, some Alex Gray type stuff, a lot of like meditating Buddhas and crop circles and a whole bunch of really just awesome ideas in the symbols on the buttons. And the buttons got the website to the Paradigm Shift Central community on them, and the buttons are something that I'm going to be making available for other people who would like buttons. For anybody who wants buttons, I won't be able to just give you like one or two, obviously, but if you're going to be putting an order, I would think it would need to be at least like 30 or 40 buttons. And for you guys, I'm giving you like a special price of like $1 per button. When I was out and about today, I was selling them for $2, but obviously I would still give them away for free. And I would just like, whatever people had, I was fine with, because the important thing about these buttons is that they're getting people connected. It's me going out, allowing the synchronicity to occur, and also when I give them the buttons, I give them a pamphlet for the Paradigm Shift London community. So big shout out to the people who I met doing this today, who theoretically could be listening to the show right now, which is the very cool part about it. And basically, yeah, so people, who I would sort of sense out being resonating with the buttons were the people who I was sort of naturally drawn to, and the right people who were looking for buttons today were the people who found buttons today. And it was an awesome experience for me. It was awesome to see like the younger kids get excited about buttons. Just the act of watching someone choose from an assortment of awesome buttons. They're like, oh, but they're all so awesome. But then, you see which ones they get drawn to. So it's a really exciting thing. And buttons are the way of the future. So if anybody wants buttons, this is the directions that I'm working with right now. Shoot me an email. So plain and simple, shoot me an email at brendon.paradigmshift@gmail.com. That's Brendon as in BRENDON paradigmshift@gmail.com. So I'll put that in the show notes, obviously, but shoot me an email there, and just with the title buttons, and tell me where you're shipping them from and how many you want, be it like 30, 40 or more. And like I said, I'm selling them to you guys for $1. Obviously, I'll need you guys to pay shipping, but if you can sell them for $2, which is a good deal because these are big buttons. Normally, if you get them in like the mall, they sell them for like $5. So, like I said, the goal is really just to get people buttons, and I did make enough money today to be able to invest more in buttons, and some of that money also went to charity as well and everything, which is part of the story. But with that said, I just wanted to bring you guys up to speed on what's new and exciting here in Paradigm Shift London, Ontario, Canada. Just to clarify, because I know there's London, UK, but yeah, London's a really great city for a lot of demo type stuff. Like there's a lot of companies that come to test products here, which is a very interesting thing. So Paradigm Shift London was something that happened here, and the fact that it can happen here is the idea that it can happen anywhere, which is kind of something I've been promoting quite going back way in the day of this whole paradigm shifty stuff. So that's really all I really need to mention to you guys now. I mean, there is more to that story, but buttons are awesome. Feel free to get a hold of buttons. And Paradigm Shift Central is a global network of communities of people shifting consciousness all over the world. And this radio show has been a big part of what's helped that happen, because it gives us something to come back to once a week, kind of like the helix itself sort of like moves away from itself, comes back, moves away from itself, come back. And that's how it is with a lot of stuff. That's how it is with like relationships between people and things. And we do that within a regular pattern relative to this tool that we have called time. It's pretty convenient. We can point to a thing in the future and say, everybody meet up here and then, to be able to regroup and rediscuss, and whether that be through this radio show or whether that be through the physical communities that other paradigm shift communities are having, the physical meetings that other communities are having all across the world. And shout out to all the other paradigm shift communities that are doing their thing. And if you want to get involved, facebook.com/paradigm shift central, go to there and there's the link to the admin group, and get yourself connected, and we'll have more Google Hangout videos of our admin meetings going on. So it's something that, again, anybody's getting involved with, and that's what we're rolling with. That's like, that is the movement behind this whole paradigm shift thing. The fact that it's a global thing inspires a lot of people, right? Like it helps people feel that they are involved with like this thing that is not just like made believe, because it is happening. There are people who are invested in it, and it's really what we choose to make it. And it was a lot of fun just going around talking to people today, because with some people, just like my language I was using, I was just like, there's one guy, he just kind of, quick story, one guy, he just like had a really cool shop, had some really cool t-shirts in there with like some Buddhist stuff on it and just Om symbols, and he's just like, oh, man, like, yeah, he's just talking to me, and I'm just like, yeah, man, you know how it is, I'm just like doing my part, being part of like this like giant shift in consciousness and mass awakening and remembering that we're all going through. And he's just like, yeah, man, and I'm just like, yeah, you know it, man, because it's like a real deal, man. It's actually something that people are committed to. And that brings me into the topic of where we left off in the past episodes. So, I mean, we're just getting into the show now. Let's get right into the objective of it, and that is to go through the categories. And the first category that I'd like to touch upon, those of you who listened to the last episode, you know that we barely just sort of refer to it, because this is the topic that was brought up in episode 9 of Paradigm Shift Radio. And again, go to paradigmshiftcentral.com/PSR. There's the archive list there, and you can actually look through the topics of the old episodes as we're going through them, or you can go to the links for the YouTube playlist and check them out there. So the topic that we left off on was the topic of quote-unquote indigo children. So I know some of my buddies have some things to say about that, and we're going to bring a couple people on right now. And there's one guy who, he's been on the show before, Rain, a lot of you know him. He may be swinging in later. It looks like he's having some problems with his internet, but we do have Vaughn, and I believe Jocelyn is on the air with us in the queue right now, so I'm going to bring them on one at a time. So Vaughn, if you're ready, I'm going to bring you on first. Here we go. Hello, Vaughn. Can you hear us?
What's up?
Yo,
yeah,
man.
I'm here. You just called me just
welcome
in time.
to the internet. Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
okay, cool, man.
You know where I was.
Yeah. Well, you're back, man. I'm glad to hear.
I'm back.
Sweet.
And can I say my idea now?
Oh, you had some big idea. Vaughn had some big idea, and he was going to tell me what it is, and I'm like, no, man, save it for the show. So I don't even know what he's got right now. What do you got, man?
I really hope it's hyped up enough. Well, I was reading about
Is it hyped up enough? Yeah.
That Daily Mail article that just came out about the 60 billion planets that probably support alien life.
Uh-huh.
And I was just thinking, like, do you think that there's aliens out there that like are thinking just like we are, wondering if there's aliens out there? And
Good
like sending
question.
satellites into space, and like, do you think that maybe once upon a time, like, we came from one of those aliens, and that like our whole history just keeps repeating itself, because that's all we do. We create civilizations, we send satellites out, and then we destroy ourselves. And then, like, every once in a while, like, a few of them survive on a different planet, and then they grow up and make all these gods and stuff up, and all these theories about connectivity and all that stuff. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, man. Like, I do like the idea that, like, in the same way life can exist here on Earth, why couldn't it exist on other, like, planets and things? Because even there's this idea, and just sort of, like, jump the gun on this, but I've sort of, like, thought about this idea of how around each planet there is, like, this, like, field. There's, like, a bubble. There's, like, a space. And that space is, like, very specific for consciousness to be able to create within. and like different you get into the idea where like different planets even within our own solar system have different like vibrational like spheres or grids, toroidal fields, like big toruses, big donuts, and like within those you get the idea that like other planets that we recognize within our own solar system as being uninhabited aren't actually uninhabited on the other planetary spheres that are just like on a different vibration outside of our perception of what we think
that spheres are God?
Is that sphere our God? Well, what do you mean?
They all have their own like little creator sphere, where it's just like, this is my creator sphere. But I mean, I'm not saying it's God like it's a being.
Yeah.
But like, what if God is just a sphere that is what we're creating within?
God
and
is just like
and that's
like
just the way we try to describe
bubbles.
it early on, and over time it got twisted into what it is now.
Something like that. Well, Vaughn, I'm going to bring on Jocelyn, and we do have, I'm not sure, there's somebody calling. Okay, yeah. I'm going to bring on Jocelyn, and then we do have other callers in the queue. So, Jocelyn, if you're ready, we're going to bring you on to the air, and we'll wrap this around into the topic of indigo children. So, Jocelyn, we're going to bring you on to Paradigm Shift Radio. Here we go. Hello, Jocelyn.
Hi, Brendon. How you doing tonight?
Doing pretty awesome. Like to be honest, I was kind of tired after getting back from doing all the buttoning thing, and then I just it was raining, so I skateboarded home in the rain, took a quick power nap, and now I'm ready to go. And I got some water with some macaroo in it and some space light, so I'm rocking
Absolutely.
it. I'm loving it. How are you?
Absolutely. I'm doing wonderful. Just like sitting over here, meditating on this idea of indigo children, and I'm hanging out with my two girlfriends. And we were just talking about what we think, our indigo children are all about. And I would have to say that, maybe you and your buddy, we're part of that movement. Everybody that's listening, they could all be indigo children. Being like part of the awakening. We're here to, with the message from the astral beings that, we can make a difference and connect humanity through love. And we can make a difference with our small actions that make big outcomes, basically.
Yeah, like I remember hearing about the indigo children thing a while back, and it was never something that I really totally encouraged, because I don't think like labels really get us too far to begin with. But it is good to have something to sort of like reference to, because there was always something that other people, like older people, you can imagine, would refer to myself as an indigo child, but I totally understand where they're coming from. Especially even just like today, like what I was doing, like the whole like button thing, going out and giving buttons, that was like indigo, like, like taking it into the core and doing work. Like that was the term that I used in my video that I put up. That was social alchemy, alchemist, as in like transmutating and creating magic within space and creating like new opportunity. And but the indigo child thing, like, I mean, in a simple way to sum it up, if no one knew anything about the term to begin with, if I was just explaining to just someone off the street or whatever, best way I would explain it, and I'll ask you guys maybe to try and do the same, the best thing I would do to try and explain it would be the idea of someone who possesses an innate curiosity to look into the fact or the possibility that reality is not as cut and dry as it appears to be, and also feels drawn towards motivation towards connecting with other like-minded individuals, and and then I guess you could like expand upon it from there. But it seems that a lot of people would associate indigos with being just, I mean, different people are differently sensitive to different energies. There's a lot of ways to define what it means to be an indigo, but yeah, I would just say someone who's like curious about stuff, and who, because you can get into the idea of indigo like talking about like star seeds and everything, but yeah, let's take it one step at a time. So
great.
Vaughn, or go ahead, Jocelyn, rather, because I was returned off her. Go ahead, Jocelyn, and then Vaughn.
Yeah, well, and I think that you're onto something by saying that the older generation calls it indigo children. It's basically this label that's saying you're special. But the interesting thing about that is that when you go into like psychology, we affect the children that we're bringing up. Like, for example, if a child is told that they're gifted, they're going to express themselves as being gifted. And if you tell a child that they're that they have a disability, they're going to perform as if they have a disability. Right. So really, I think that indigo children are all of our generation. But, you know, an indigo child is, you know, their definition of it, like to the book, would be somebody that felt different, right, or somebody that is psychically, when I say psychic, I mean sensitive, right? They're like empathic, like they feel what other people are going through, or they understand there's a shift going on. You know, they're awakened, or however you want to look at it, and they're ready to shift society into a more like holistic and unified model rather than the separate systems that are going on today in this world. That's how I see it.
Yeah, and I'll just show the, you know, like one of the other sides of the coin, and I'll pass this off to Vaughn. The idea that a big problem with our society nowadays is that these children who are, you know, theoretically you can label them as indigo children at a young age or whatever. A lot of these children are being treated with like pharmaceutical stuff, or we're just labeling them as like ADD or things like that. What I'm always interested in is being able to foster the growth of children at a young age, and to be able to encourage them to like not fit into a specific mold, but rather encourage them to find out who it is that they are. An interesting thing just going, and I think I mentioned this in the past episode actually, an interesting thing going into like native tradition in some tribes is that they wouldn't name the child until like later on in their life, when they felt that the child's name would be drawn out of something that they did. So, you know, there would be like the one who like chases deer, or like the sky gazer, or the skywalker. Would be another term.
That's so funny that you said that, because I have a 5-year-old son with Down syndrome, and the funny part that you said, I think that fate really organized this, because we thought it was going to be a girl, so we had this name picked out, but when he was born, he actually turned out to be a boy, so we had to take some time to think about his name, and his name is actually Cain, because he had to go through all of this testing, and it means tiny warrior. So we actually named my son, who is labeled by society, Tiny Warrior, because it's what he spoke to us. So this is what you're saying is like specifically speaking to me. And I tell my son, I do the same exact thing, that although society says, and you know, that he is different by definition of his syndrome, I see him as a very gifted person who can show everyone what unconditional love is. And that Norse name is, he is a warrior of light. He is my tiny Cain. Kane is Norse for tiny warrior of light. So I love that. But completely resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah, sure. Vaughn, go ahead, jump in on this.
Yeah, when I was because I was diagnosed with ADHD, but like when I was born, I knew things were different. I knew things that no one had taught me yet. I knew about energy work, and I swear I have memories where I was moving things with my mind. Everything was manifesting, like, and I felt like I was in this dream world. And then you know, I got told that I was daydreaming, and that I needed to be put on pills, and then everything, you know, went downhill after that. But like, you know, I think like, you know, a lot of us are coming into, you know, being light workers again. A lot of us are talking about mental alchemy. I just, you know, I one thing I've noticed within myself is that a lot of times I forget to apply it to every aspect of my life and thoughts, and that like sometimes you still get, a lot of us keep getting caught back up and you know, the day-to-day things, and we don't realize that like we're constantly manifesting things, and like we talk about it and we say it's real, but then like a lot of us still complain about certain things that are really just things that we're manifesting into our own life. And I mean, like, when we were younger, I think a lot of us knew this, and that's why we acted the way we did when we were younger. But then, you know, after all the programming we went through, we're back to, you know, trying to, like, we're going in between, like, being a light worker and being someone who is part of the program. And then, like, the problem is, you know, people around us are all, like, still telling us, you know, to stay with the program because, you know, what, you know, this light worker stuff is crazy hippie shit. What are you doing? You know, so, I mean, it's a matter of like what you're surrounded by. Like, I think like that's one thing that Facebook and stuff has helped a lot of people, because they're able to surround themselves with people now, even if it's only on the internet, that can like kind of encourage them to keep moving forward as opposed to backwards. But it's just like, even myself, like in the day-to-day life, like I have to keep acting normal. Otherwise, I look like I'm daydreaming and zoning out and having an episode of ADHD or hyperactivity or something. And it's not.
I have the luxury of building my own tribe. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like just going back to the idea of indigo children. Yeah, like without a doubt, I would say if someone's listening to this show, then by whether your definition or someone else's, you could say that you are an indigo child, whatever that means to you. I think a simple way that you can look at it is just being, if you realize, and it, again, like drop the label or whatever, like just accept the fact that we need to take responsibility for what it is that we're doing. Like I mentioned earlier, the idea of starseed. Starseed fits in with the umbrella of indigo children, and it basically directly refers to the idea that, again, going back to the idea that like we're not like a body with a soul, we're a soul with a body, and the idea that our souls have actually existed on other planets or other places, other star systems in different parts of the galaxy, and kind of going what Vaughn was talking about earlier in the episode, when you look at the idea of if life can exist here, then yeah, who's to say we didn't exist as like very physical human looking type beings on other places of the planet, of the places of the galaxy in some way or another. And even when you talk about ideas of Atlantis or Lemuria, because I mean you get the idea that these ancient cultures like did really exist here on this planet, and in a very real way. There's the idea that a lot of the souls involved with that evolutionary process are still here today. And I mean, it's just it's just going back to the idea that what I was going to say is that regardless of like starseed, regardless of indigo, a term that I would choose to stand on would be the term earthseed, and for all of us to just accept collectively that like we are all earthseed. And that means let's do the work, and the work is like part of the play, but it's like part of the growth. You know what I mean? So, sorry, Vaughn, go ahead. Did you want to? That makes sense.
Feel like we were
Earthseed.
Right,
that's cool too.
I was about to say on that. I do feel like we're the seed that was planted into the earth from outside of the earth.
That's literally an earth seed. Like that is. Yeah.
I mean,
like the more I'm
look
thinking
how
about
different we are evolutionarily wise. Like, look how long it takes other animals to evolve. Like, we probably did get dropped off here as a seed to grow this planet. You know, like all those theories about like the Adam and Eve of each planet.
Huh.
You know, like what if we have like ancestors somewhere dropping us off on every planet? Like, you guys figure stuff out, and they just forgot about us or something, or maybe they're just watching. Like, when are they going to figure it out?
Yeah, it's definitely, I think one thing that I've always been really interested in, this idea came back to me a while back, and I know some people hear it and they'll get pretty excited about it, because it definitely just sort of just like, yeah, wow, like I never really thought about it in that scope. But it's the idea that what is happening here on Earth is actually like something that is far more meaningful, far more valuable, far more significant than we actually realize. In the fact that what is happening here has never really happened anywhere else in the entire universe or galaxy ever before. And because of this, because of its such a peculiar nature, because there's like so much involved, like our Earth has the full spectrum. It has like the, like it has everything. It has like the high and the low. And because of this, it's attracting the attention of other star systems, other star beings. There's that sort of meme that's floating around. It's like, what if Earth is just like a reality TV show for other planets? Almost similar to that idea in a literal way. What is happening on Earth here does have the attention of like other intelligences that exist beyond the ones that we sort of recognize being here on Earth and everything like that. And yeah, like they very well totally getting into the aliens and stuff like that. It'd be really interesting to just imagine a future where there's a future where we're sort of like side by side with aliens, but the aliens are actually people. They're just other looking humans. They're just humans that maybe look slightly different. I've always sort of thought that would be the case, that these aliens wouldn't need to be like tentacly, like flailing arms and stuff. Like it could just be like another human, because these humans, like you said, Vaughn, going back to what you said, the Earthseed idea of being dropped on a planet. Yeah, who's to say that like the human template is something that sort of structured itself way before Earth, and it's something that if life is put onto any planet, like eventually there's a possibility for like the human form to evolve out of it. It's just an idea. So
a lot of ancient texts, like when they're translated properly, say very similar things along the lines of actually, like, we're like this race that was genetically, like the human race, was genetically like modified to be this perfect species that would grow on this planet somewhere. But then, like, over time, we turned that into a God-made man and stuff like that. But, like, in reality, that was just like our ancestors creating us so we could thrive and run this experiment of Earth.
Yeah. I'm just gonna read some stuff in the live chat right now. You know, like someone just sort of posting the like question based on what a person was saying. It's like, you know, like, so are you saying that like we're aliens? Question mark. It's kind of like what they were saying, but I mean, again,
yeah.
like basically yes, but that doesn't devalue any of the fact that we are here. And again, I like going back to the idea that like we as soul actually choose to be here. You could think about the idea that there are, in the same way that, like I said, there are people there are people kind of up in the stands right now watching this Earth thing play out, and there's like, damn, this is exciting. Like, you know, like I kind of want to be in there. And then there's us who are in here, and we like don't even realize that we've like gotten the opportunity to be in
down in here too.
Maybe that's what I'm saying. Maybe they're just waiting for us to sort of like clean up the, you know, do some stuff first. There's a stepping order.
What if they jump in the bodies of our children? Just saying, that's another big theory running.
Multiple souls occupying a body. Dude, man, that sounds like
no, that's not what I meant. I meant like the soul enters the body like during birth or like after birth.
Oh well, no, I think that is how it always happens. That's actually
so like those kids that are watching are like, you know, I want to get on that action. You know what? I think I will, and they just jump in like when they need to.
I think that's how it works, man. Like I think like the souls that are waiting to be born are sort of like up in the stands watching the game, and then they're just like, yo, I'm like subbing in for that guy next or something, you know, and they sort of like jump in.
Remember that Robin Williams movie I was just talking about?
Yeah, What Dreams May Come. Yeah.
What Dreams May Come. That's what they did at the end of the movie. They're like, you know what? I think we should go have another life, and they're like, okay. So they had another life together.
Yeah, like the idea that we actually choose where we are sort of born into. I've always liked that idea, like the idea that our names are not by accident. Our names are actually something chosen by ourselves to help us remember. Again, all of this stuff. Maybe this would sort of fit into my term of indigo children. I'll pass this off to Jocelyn in a second. And again, like, I mean, I know I said we were just going to go through every episode or whatever, but I think this is just a good topic to sort of spend time on anyways. But yeah, like I was just kind of saying, what was I saying 2 seconds ago? Damn it, I forgot briefly. But yeah, no, basically the idea of like indigo children. Sorry, no, I forget. I'll go back to it though. I did have somewhat of a good point, I'm pretty sure. No, wait, okay, yeah, no, sorry. I was just emphasizing the idea that we choose our own names. That's a very important thing. We choose our own parents. That's a very important thing. And a lot of this stuff, this is what I was trying to remember. A lot of this stuff is a process of us trying to remember more about the innate truth that lies in all of our hearts. Like the idea that within all of us, there is this pure like light source of knowledge and understanding that is trying to shine out from within us, but there's like certain things that are in front of it. So for different people, it's like shining out in like different degrees, and we need to like polish the dust off of the mirror of our hearts. And like that is why things like names can help us remember just more bits and like stuff about ourselves. Like even going back to the indigo thing, and I'll just pass this to Jocelyn. If anybody else has like a slightly pointed ear that kind of looks like an elf ear, I have one, is what I'm saying. I've heard somewhere else, or I read it in a book, that is actually a common thing amongst quote-unquote indigo children. And the reason why I think it's there is because it helps us remember. That pointy thing on my ear always got me questioning from a young age. I'm like, so am I part elf? Like what is, you know, like, and then I was always drawn to that energy of elves. And then you get into the idea of like, well, who's to say that like elfkin and otherkin there's not something to that, but we'll save that conversation. Jocelyn, feel free to add into this smorgasbord of knowledge sharing that we got going on here. In a good way.
I just love it. You know, I'm listening. My rough definition, you know, you guys are talking about, you know, other planets and everything, and I'm absolutely there with you, just without such defined terms. And I think with like my opinion of it, and this is just like me like throwing this out there, but I don't like, and I think this is how you guys see it too. This is just me explaining it from a different perception or light. But it's like, I don't think we're necessarily separate. Like when someone talks about aliens, the rough definition in the English dictionary would be, something foreign, right? Like they say illegal alien. That means that it's foreign to our country. But the thing is that what's out there in the stars is here on Earth. We are made of stardust. So to say, like, these aliens or these astral beings came to our planet and gave us the starseed is referring, this is what I've always thought in my head, is referring to the fact that we are separate at some point, when in fact I think that when you look into, having the potential to kind of tap into this universal consciousness, that's what it is on a material level when you get down to the physics of how energy works, that, we're all energy and it's all interconnected. You know what I'm saying? Like we were always a part of the galaxies that are hundreds of thousands infinitely away from what we can even comprehend is a part of us now because of the idea that we're all interconnected through matter.
Mm-hmm. Vaughn, do you want to... Sorry, go ahead, Justin.
And as far as, no, don't be sorry. And I love that whole elf thing because I've been obsessed with fairies since I was a little girl, and I do not have pointed ears. So the fact that you have pointed ears just makes my inner little girl just giggle. Like I'm just like, yay, happiness.
That's funny. You just reminded me. You reminded me of a really cool tidbit of information that I'll share with the listeners in a second. That will shift some paradigms for sure. Vaughn, do you have something that you want to add in on this?
Oh no, not right now. I'm catching up with the chat room to see if they're asking questions.
Okay. Cool, man. All right. Just keeping an eye on the topics that we had in the future. In the following episodes, I'm gonna get into that. I'll just mention this real quick. Like I said, Justin reminded me of it. What I was going to mention, because someone was talking to me about this the other day. They were basically asking, they're like, what's the deal with blue people? Like, I saw them in a dream, or I had a vision of them, or something like that. And they're just like, what were these blue people about? And then I was just like, oh, the blue people. Like, oh, well, let me tell you about the blue people. Because I personally find it really interesting, this thing and this is kind of, connect the dots in this, but it will make sense. But basically, the blue people, the human eyes, when we perceive this reality right now, our colors are actually inverted. There's a science behind this. So all the colors that you're looking at right now in your room, presuming you're perceiving reality at base level, they're all inverted. So if you were to take the human skin and invert the colors using Photoshop, people have done this, take a picture of yourself and invert it in Photoshop, and the skin is cyan. It's the inverted color of white, flesh skin, and then it creates that blue color when you invert it. The blue people, that is actually who we are, because when we're in these higher dimensional realms, we don't have these same filters on. So that's why beings that are seen in higher dimensional realms are often depicted as blue, which links in with the idea of why the Hindu gods are often depicted as blue, and even you get into the ideas of pop culture thing like Avatar and even the Smurfs, and the Smurfs are these multi-dimensional gnomes that can sort of refer to the idea that they're from other dimensional realities and things, which I think is a totally, again, this super interesting thing that right now you're hanging out in your room, and there could be a gnome chilling out in the corner of your room right now who's invisible, who's just watching you curiously, but you can't see him because you're not shifted into the same vibration that he is. So that's what I was going to say. So we are the blue people, and Dr. Manhattan is another example. He's a pretty badass blue guy. So if anybody was ever wondering what the deal with the blue people are, that is us, just with our colors inverted to a degree. So, sorry, what's that, Vaughn?
Well, me and Jericho were talking about on the first time that Jericho was in the show. We were talking about how a long time ago, apparently, the amount of melanin in someone, they would actually glow the chakra color that they were beaming. So they weren't really blue, they were indigo, but that was the highest state, and that's why all these Hindu and Tibetan figures are all painted blue or red or different colors based off what chakra they're stuck at. And that's why the Mara was red, and that the Buddha and everything else, they were high in the indigo, are off the spectrum. So like that's literally what they would have looked like back then. Like they weren't just painted that way to look cool. Like they literally were. They looked like that. They were like glowing and blue and indigo and shit.
Yeah, man.
According to what their scrolls say. But we like a lot of us, we look at it and we don't really have a full understanding. So we say, oh well, you know, they're just trying to like show how something's like this. But like when the artists were drawing that, like their intention was that that's what they really look like, you know.
Yeah, that's the idea that like if you do sometimes like if you're gonna see these blue creatures, it can be oftentimes in like dream states or deep meditation states. Like I just think it's a cool thing to keep in mind. Like who are the blue people?
In the chat room.
I'm seeing that, yeah. Guys, play nice in the chat room, please. I mean, I'm not here to monitor it. You're free to do your thing. Just be respectful, and remember that part of Paradigm Shift is to encourage people to listen with the intent to understand, not the intent to reply. So check in with yourself if you're just like, you know, sort of like letting your ego get ahead of you, so to speak. So I'm going to keep moving along with some of the topics that we were also talking about in other episodes. So moving on to episode 10, let me give off a few topics, and then you guys sort of tell me out of those is your favorite topic. So based on just the titles of the episode 10 dealt with the topics of drum circles, half-truth, identity contacts, and astral projection. Whereas episode 11 dealt with the topics of the Full Blue Moon Project, which was like a video thing we did back in the day, and also ayahuasca retreats. So there's like the topic of ayahuasca in there. So out of that, was there something that you guys wanted to, I mean, astral projection is always an exciting idea. It's kind of complicated when we do talk about it fairly regularly.
Oh, yeah.
Entity contacts, drum circles. Drum circles are awesome, I'll say that much. Had a drum circle today at the park.
Are you going to have a drum circle?
Live drum circle? I need a drum circle. If we add it, sure. I'd be up for that. People are looking, people in the chat, what do you guys want to hear? So between topics of ayahuasca, full moons, and yes, Vaughn.
Yeah. If they,
why don't we have a
Sorry? Go ahead. Go ahead, Vaughn.
I was just going to say we could have a live beatbox circle.
We'll
that would
save
be super. I was actually just talking about ayahuasca with my girlfriend. Yesterday it's been on the East Coast, we've been having a lot of rain. And me and my girlfriend we yesterday we ran out in the rain and we did this dance underneath the rain and let it loose and just had our battle cries and everything. But what was interesting is that she's never heard of ayahuasca, and it actually came up. But I listened to the show on the ayahuasca retreats, and I also went to this symposium called the Medicines of the Earth Symposium in Black Mountain, and one of the guys, his name is Chris Killiam. And he is a professor at Boston University, and he actually goes, that's like what he does for a living, is he actually goes within the Amazon several times a year and just, you know, has these experiences with ayahuasca and, you know, talking about that. But, so, I mean,
yeah, it's a very interesting topic, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I would definitely highlight it as like you know put like a gold star next to it in terms of interesting topics that we've covered here on Paradigm Shift Radio. I would love to sort of embrace this challenge and see if we can sum up the ayahuasca topic in like 5 minutes.
Can I try?
And then just sort of like, you may try first. Yeah, so again, for someone who's listening to the show who has no idea what ayahuasca is, please, Jocelyn, explain to them what the deal is with ayahuasca.
Okay. Ayahuasca is a vine that is found in the Amazon, and it is used by shamans to basically re-enliven DMT, which is a chemical that makes your body go through a psychedelic experience, basically. But this chemical is, around in our body through high levels of stress and only is released through those times. And it's released during most people will experience it during birth, during death, or if they're giving birth. So if you're a woman, you get to actually experience this without taking a chemical, what would you call that, like catalyst to get this going within your body. But it basically, what it does, from what I've heard the definition from other shamans, is that it re-enlivens the spirit. It interweaves our DNA with the universal consciousness. It brings about an awakening with the body to purge the body, in essence, of any negative feelings. So it's not one of those, it's not like, mushrooms or something like that you'd want to take recreationally. It's definitely one of those soul-searching type, brews. It's kind of like a soup, kind of drink taste, or drink like sour, bitter taste that you would drink to kind of, purge and really get into the inner essence of your being. But that's my sum, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Vaughn, do you want to add on to that?
I was just going to say that you also experience that DMT every time when you go to sleep at night. It's during a part of your dream that you'll never remember. Not even during your lucid dreams, you actually remember the DMT trip that you experience every night when you go to sleep. So the same experience that we have when we are born and when we die, we have it every night. So basically die every night and go somewhere else. And then
that is really interesting. That just blew my mind, because I have these weird experiences that are very vivid and I've had them ever since I was a little girl. I was when I'm in the twilight of waking up, I have a voice that comes next to my ear, and this is going to sound creepy, but it's never creepy to me, but it says, "You're going to pass on one day." Like in a whisper, "You're going to pass on one day." It says that. But this was what reunited me with the consciousness, I guess, the ultimate consciousness, I know that I'm infinite, is because this thing would come and whisper to me basically this is temporary, but you're a part of this bigger thing. I don't know, but maybe that's DMT too. This spirit that's coming to tell us that we're all interlinked and infinite. That's so cool that it's there in the dreams too. Thanks for that, Rain. That's awesome.
Sorry, wait, did you just... Yeah, this is Vaughn. I don't know if you said Rain.
Oh, Vaughn. Sorry, I'm sorry, Vaughn. Yeah.
Rain I don't know if Rain's going to be with us tonight just because his internet's broken or something.
Well, maybe I'm summoning him now.
Yeah, okay. Shout out to Rain, who's somewhere out there in the ether. So I was just going to say, I'll just add in my quick definition here of ayahuasca and DMT, and sort of try and draw the picture here so people can make sense of it in a way, because it makes sense for me. It definitely is this big part of the puzzle. It definitely connects a lot of dots. The topics of ayahuasca, the topics of DMT, the topics of the fact that DMT occurs naturally in the brain when we dream and stuff. Basically, what I sort of think is DMT as sort of working with the metaphor of computers, the body has different programs that it can run. When the brain runs the software program for excreting DMT in the brain, basically it is connecting and opening up this pathway between our consciousness that is in basic reality, ordinary reality, and then it is creating that connection towards the more higher the higher volume of reality that reality actually is. I've sort of talked about this before, basically going back to the idea of filters. Reality actually is way crazier, beautiful, spiritual, sacred geometry, fractals blooming into infinity with light, more than we realize it is. When you sort of have this pathway opened, when you sort of have think of it as a stargate, literally a stargate, and the DMT is kind of the water in the stargate, so you need that water to sort of travel electricity through in a certain way that it changes the information that's coming in. So when we have these experiences, it's because I've explained this, and this is the best way I can explain it, and I'll just sum it up real quick. Where the dream space, the space that we're in after we've passed on, that is the space where we're actually more from. We were spiritual beings long before we were physical beings, and that's why that it created this experience, it created this body to evolve in such a way for this process to take place, where as a spirit, it can come through and experience this crazy reality in a way where it's not like tripping out all the time, and it's actually sort of stuck in this illusion of ignorance, so to speak, as to what it is. And that's why, like, part of the trick that we're playing on ourselves, it's like this whole, like, Joker thing going on. Part of this trick is that we've intentionally made ourselves forget, which is why, like Vaughn said, when you have these moments where your, like, brain is releasing DMT, like, it's hard to say when exactly it is and it isn't in terms of sleeping. I'm not entirely sure of the science there, but the idea that when it's happening, it's very, very hard to remember that, which is like kind of the case like with ayahuasca and with the DMT experience if smoked, is that when you do it, right as you do it, as soon as you do it, the body is like instantly trying to like turn the filters off. It is trying to like, is trying to put the filters back on. It's trying to like go against like what is happening, which is why like when you're dreaming and you wake up really quick, if you like jump up really quick, it sort of just like instantly just kind of cuts that connection. It shuts off like the Stargate connection. And it's not that the information on the other side of the Stargate that we're accessing doesn't exist anymore. It's just that we don't actually have a connection to it. And when you think about it that way, like the idea that we have like our memory when we're walking around and talking to the people we know here, and then there's like our dream memory that almost exists more in the higher dimensions, because there's the idea that like everything that has happened in our dreams and in our physical walking space reality is there to be remembered, is there to be like accessed. And that, I mean, you can almost get into the idea of like Akashic records out of that. People in the live chat, did that make sense? Like, you guys tell me, because that's the goal of this show, to try and make sense of extremely interesting, crazy topics that our society barely even has like words and context for. So it's hard to put higher dimensional reality into words. Like I said, the best way I can explain it is like it's really fractally and sacred geometry and light and all that stuff. That, but more. So, sorry, Vaughn, go ahead.
There's been a long conversation about this in the chat. I thought I should bring this up since they seem to want to talk
about it.
Go ahead.
Take a look.
What do you think about people getting sick by believing that they're sick?
I think that's totally... I think the other way you could look at that is people not getting healthy by not believing additionally that they will get healthy.
Or trying to get healthy.
Or even trying, you know, like even just the simple language that you use. The universe doesn't understand the word no. So rather than saying I don't want to be sick, literally change your language to say I want to be healthy, I will be healthy. That in itself, and do healthy things and have healthy thoughts, that literally changes like how reality works. Like going back to the idea of being magicians, every single thought that we put out is programming the reality, and that's where, you know, again, the indigo person awareness.
And if the universe doesn't understand the word
trying
no,
to help us remember.
The universe is a rapist.
Because the universe is racist? Is that what you said?
It's a rapist. They don't understand rapist? No. I say to stop universe, and it's like, no, you're going to get it. And I'm like, wow.
Vaughn, that's a bad joke.
Well, you're a bad joke.
Go ahead, Jocelyn. Jump in on that.
I think that it comes down, you know, I've done a lot of thinking about this whole, like, no thing, right? And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, it doesn't hear no. And, like, for me, whenever I started, like, peeling this thing down, like, to, like, the layers of, like, an onion, what I got to was that, like, when we feel what we feel, we are forming a frequency that creates a reality. And what I'm saying is, out of all that gibberish, is, like, when you're saying, I don't want to be sick, what you're really doing are, like, I'm not going to be sick, or you're feeling I am sick. Whereas you're like, I want to be healthy, you think, I feel what it would be like to be healthy and happy and running around. And then that frequency then exudes and, like, kind of permeates this frequency reality, and then you receive that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like when we were kids and we were looking out the window of a car and we saw some birds flying around. We just thought, you know what? I wish that bird would fly in that direction. And then it did, and we're like, did I do that? You know, it's kind of like if you just imagine what it would be like for something to go somewhere, it's just sort of like the way your life works. You imagine the way it's going to go, and it tends to go that way. But as soon as you start worrying, it starts going the other way. And you're like, no. But, yeah.
Right,
yeah,
and I found also one of the key things that I found with, like, this whole, like, now that we're getting into manifestation, I want to share something that's really helped my life is, like, when we're closing our eyes and we're thinking about, you know, like, manifestation, and we're imagining a reality that is, like, permeating into physical existence, right? What happens a lot of times with me is that, like, I'll get stuck on, like, my idea of what I think is the perfect way for it to manifest. But, like, what the truth is that the universe will answer your call even though you don't see how it's going to manifest. It has the perfect pathway. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it will manifest, but if you get stuck on no universe, like, I wanted this to happen now, and you're not answering my prayers.
Yeah, you get mad at it and stuff. It's like, that doesn't work that way.
It goes away. Then it goes away because it's like, you know, you were on the path of it, or actually this is like building on what you're saying, you know, because it's like, you negate that right away by wanting a specific manifestation. Why not go the big Monty? Just keep feeling what you want to feel, and then that leaves the door open for whatever the universe wants to manifest into your life, which is, by default, whatever is going to make you happy, instead of like a specific circumstance that you're attaching your ego to.
Yeah, last night I was coming home and I was skateboarding, and like my day was just like, it was just like I just had a really good day, Saturday, Friday. Yeah, today was Saturday, but I just had both days were awesome, but I just had a really good day Friday, and like, you know, like I wouldn't change a thing about it basically, and I was skateboarding home and I was just like saying stuff out loud to myself, but it was really like in theme with what this is, and I know I couldn't repeat it, and I know even at the time when I was saying it, I'm just like, damn, this is like, I was almost like channeling like myself, so to speak, and just like really spitting some truth. But yeah, I was basically just kind of referring to the idea of just like letting go of expectations and just being happy with like whatever sort of comes your way, and understanding that things actually are playing out in this process that is a little bit bigger than us. It's a little bit harder for us to see the whole picture because we're just like in this little sliver of time, like this super little sliver of time, and there's like a part of us that exists like in a bigger sliver of time, one that's like infinitely bigger even, and that's like the, you know, the part that knows more about us. It knows Absolutely. Like and the universe does always have our best interests in mind. I've just been really happy recently, just like with what the universe is sort of like bringing into my experience, and just being able to share that with other people. Like, that's the best part. It's really cool when you're happy, but it's even like awesomer when you're sharing that happiness with people who you care about. Like, that's like bonus points right there.
And like for the people
like,
out
shout
there
out to everybody who's like doing it. Yeah,
but and
love
even
you guys.
the people who aren't happy yet, just imagine. You know, it's like the Somewhere Over the Rainbow song. You know, you just
like
keep
that
singing
song.
that. Whatever makes you feel good. Just keep feeling that. You know what I mean? And then by default, that feeling is going to be like returned to you. Like, Vaughn, do you feel like you've had these experiences in your life where, like, you know, like it comes down to like the frequencies, the like feelings, whatever you feel like you're like tuning into a radio station, you know, like of like just good vibes.
Mhm. I found myself trapped in cycles during life, and then when it wasn't until like I really started imagining my life being something different that I ever got out of those cycles. And you know, now I look back at those cycles and it's like looking at a different life where I saw a different perspective. But you know, it makes it having gone through different things makes it easier to like help people who've been through the same thing who are going through it, because when you're in a certain situation in your life, your mind's going around this long circle, so you don't really realize it's a circle, but it is a circle. And so I mean, like they get this tunnel vision, and the same thing happens with depressed people and suicidal people and whatever, people who get stuck in such a situation where they just feel like they're not ever going to get anywhere. They get this tunnel vision to where like they don't see anything else. And until like you really get them to let their shields down that are showing their vision and seeing that there's a world beyond where they live in their mind. The thing is, like, everyone is stuck there alone, and they're scared, and they're in their own mind. And until like they realize and meditate on the fact that they are alone in their mind, but they're only alone because there's only one of us, then they'll realize that there's something more.
But the truth, you know, the universal truth is that we're infinite and you know, always connected. So that all those people out there that are feeling lonely or know somebody that's lonely, tune in to Paradigm Shift. Know that this is the universal consciousness, and you're tuning into it, and like, you know what I mean? Like refurbishing your soul and interconnecting with like this huge community. So, you know, like that's what I feel like.
It's the universe communicating to itself.
Our Facebook tribe. I'm a stay-at-home mom, so like I'm like quintessentially alone the majority of my life, but I feel like I have the biggest like tribe because of my Facebook. So, and because of you guys, you know. So, and this like universal consciousness cultivation.
Yeah, for sure. Right back at you, Mama Bear. Like,
that was so cute. Okay, but anyway, yeah. And Vaughn, that was beautiful, man. Straight from the heart chakra for sure.
I tried.
Vaughn tries. Cool. All right. Let me just see. So I was talking about episode 1110.
Yeah.
Again, just sort of hopscotching along here. I'd like to just sort of like really keep moving, just sort of like plow through these next ones. We are about an hour into the show. So episode 12, going back, and again, please, if you haven't listened to the past episodes of Paradigm Shift Radio, go back and check them out. They are new to you if you haven't heard them before, and watching through them, you can actually notice a progression, and there's a lot of interesting things, and I think I should go back and listen to them. So you should too, when you get a chance, and listen to them either just on Blog Talk or on YouTube or through iTunes. And if you're on iTunes, please subscribe and give us a rating. So sweet. Going back to episode 12, we had a guest on, a guy by the name of E.A. Quetting. He talked about practical magic, summoning entities, and soul travel. Some pretty advanced stuff came up in that episode, I'll say that. Episode 13, we had on more special guests. We had on our buddy Jordan from Spirit Science, plus Elijah, a.k.a. the Fourth Born Thoth. You guys probably remember that whole thing when that happened. That was a story in itself. And episode 14 was the Plant a Seed Project, crop circles, crystals, and more. So out of that, anybody want to, even just from the live chat, what do you guys want to hear out of those topics? And Vaughn or Jocelyn, do you guys have any preferences?
What were the options? Talk about astral projection.
That was EA was talking about like soul travel and astral projection stuff. Yeah. Sorry, Jocelyn, did you have? I'm just trying to read the chat. Roscoe wants to talk about Thoth. Of course he does. Jocelyn, did you have a preference out of those?
I don't. You know, I have. I'm pretty open to all of those. So.
Okay. Vaughn, did you want to talk about astral projection? Because, that could just... I wouldn't want to... astral projection is kind of an interesting thing.
I'm getting more astral projection from the chat, so...
Astral projection from the chat, okay. Because it is a popular topic, I understand why, and it does ride on the tails of what we're talking about.
We keep seeing those. So maybe if we bounce between
That's one guy.
Yeah, so... Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, one guy is a part of the whole.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's talk about this Thoth guy. The real Thoth, or like the guy that was pretending to be Thoth?
I would talk about the real Thoth first, just to sort of give people a synopsis on who, when they hear Thoth, like what are they thinking about? What are they talking about here? So go ahead, Vaughn.
The ancient scribe. What?
Thoth, for those of you, yeah.
Tehuti was his original name, but Djethi was actually the real original. But anyways, Tehuti, or Thoth. We need to stop saying Thoth. His name was Thoth.
Okay.
That's like the Canadian abbreviation that Jordan used. But anyways. So,
I'm glad you
Tehuti was this ancient scribe that a lot of people believe got, transferred to Hermes in Greece. Basically, he gave, all the ancient information, which all the new religions got based off of, through the Kabbalion, which is, this scripted text that the Masons and everyone used, and that's how they kind of figured that they got all their gods and their god from. But anyways, like this, basically the story of the guy was he would describe me. He like documented everything that happened in the ancient days, and he lived for like a few thousand years, and he would describe down like all the information, and that's why you see him in all the hieroglyphs and stuff with a scribe writing everything down, and some people say that it's possible that he was Elijah in the Bible, but that's stretching things a bit. But the whole thing that happened with the guy that...
Well, hold on. I was going to say, like, the whole thing from what I know about... sorry, what do you want me to call him? Thoth or Thoth? Thoth?
Let's call him Nathaniel.
No, I'm talking about Thoth. Like, actual Thoth. Like, what people talk about.
I like those. Because Spirit Science, in their life publications, they always call him those.
I'm gonna go with Thoth.
But anyways, yeah.
So I was just gonna say, whatever works. I was going to say, the one thing that I know about Thoth that I find peculiarly interesting is the idea that, you know, you talk about him being a scribe, you talk about him writing things down. One way to also interpret it is the idea that he was the keeper of, like, all the cosmic records of, like, things that happened. So this is, like, referring to, like, karmatic deeds. Anything that you did, good or bad, was recorded by Thoth. Is an interesting idea when you just think about it.
The reason it is thought, though, let me reiterate, is because that's how the word thought became to be a word, is because Thoth became thought. That's the root word of thought. That's where it came from. And so, like, that's kind of like a really important thing that has to do with the mind. And
really.
Thoth would teach that the mind is all and the all is mind. So I feel like that was his way of, that was like the greatest teaching he would give in his mental alchemy. And he's the inventor of mental alchemy. He's the mental alchemist. And so, like, this was a person who taught everyone, like, how to manifest destiny and manifest their reality, and like showed them, like, all the secrets of mental alchemy. But I mean, like, that's
it's funny. I was just gonna say, like Thoth can almost be thought of.
I don't get that.
Yeah,
say, like, Thoth is almost. Sorry. I don't want to talk over you guys. Go ahead, Jocelyn. My point's barely even. I was gonna say it's something stupid, but it's not stupid because everything matters. But, like, you know, it's like Thoth is like almost like one of, like, the original Indigo Children, or something, or like X-Men or whatever. But not
or Earthseed. Like, you know, somebody who was here that actually, you know, was here to deliver the main message. The main man, Thoth. Right? Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, but, you know, I see synchronicities here because I'm a Gemini and I like to talk a lot, and our planet, you know, Mercury represents is Hermes, and that's the guy of communication. So there's an interlinking, you know, factor there, because Hermes was the guy who communicated from the gods to the people, and then Thoth, the one who brought this great message to the people, same guy. So it's kind of like you can almost say, the English language, maybe it has a bunch of names for the same meaning. I don't know. Up for question? Yes.
You also notice that a lot of words in the English language have the same exact sound. And, exactly. Like, when we think of words, they're spells, like gospel, ghost spells, that's what it means. So, like, when we're using words, we're saying spells, and a lot of words sound exactly the same. And yet we think they have different meanings, but the person who originally created that sound knew what it meant when they created that spell. And
controversial,
so, you know,
but may I say maybe same thing with religion?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but, wait. Are you guys telling me that magic is real and that we can, like, manifest things into this reality by writing intentions down and creating symbols with energy and intentions behind them? Man, that's a conspiracy, Vaughn. Dude, magic isn't real. That's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy, man.
Okay.
Sorry,
but no, we're just talking about magic. We can talk about magic.
Are you talking about in episode 12, we had E.A. Wedding on, and he was talking about practical magic. Yeah, that was a really interesting episode. I suggest people go back and check.
I thought so, too.
Sigil magic. The basic idea behind sigil magic, I'll explain it in like 30 seconds. If you want to get into something involving like creating things into this reality, part of the way that you can do it in addition to thinking it is to actually actively write it down, because writing something down triggers something additional in this reality. It helps like things come more into being. And one of the ways that you can do this is write down a sentence of something that you want, and then take out all of the vowels and take out and then take a string of consonants, and then take out the repeating consonants, and then take the letters from that and merge those letters into a single symbol, and invest and meditate and focus the intent on that symbol, and make the symbol look like magical and stuff. So you could have like something like, I want to get a new house or something. So you take that out, take out all the vowels, repeating a string of consonants, create a symbol. You could make like circles and spirals on it, and then just say like, this is what this symbol means to me. And then when you look at that symbol, and then when you go back and you look at it, it's like invoking this idea, and it's helping like bring things into this reality. It's like hacking the Matrix is a good way to think about it, because this reality is like a program. It's like a software. There's certain things that sort of like happen, and part of the way how we program this reality is literally through like the thoughts that we project. So I mean, going back to the idea of what you put out is what you get back in. Put out positive vibes, get positive vibes back out and back in, which is something that we always encourage here. So yeah, again, just be mindful of what it is that you're like doing, what you're thinking, and reclaim your mind and meditate and stuff.
I think we need to touch on astral travel too, so that we can answer the.
Yeah, true. Just to clarify, I can give an answer for that, but I'll just catch my breath if Vaughn or Jocelyn wants to answer astral travel, because to be honest, like it is, it's like gotten pretty confusing in some way how people describe it. So Jocelyn, go ahead though, or Vaughn.
Oh, actually, I was looking forward to Vaughn, because he seems like he was
Vaughn
ready to go.
Does have an answer.
He's all the
Vaughn, how would you describe astral projection, Vaughn?
Astral
is
projection
an experience for all the people who don't know about it.
Where let's just put an example. You're laying down, you're gonna go to sleep, right? But then all of a sudden you're looking down, your body's below you, and you're like, whoa! And so like, next thing you know, like you're floating through space and you're flying and shit. But then like you can actually see things that are really happening in the world. So like I could go visit you and be like, what's up, Skull Babylon? But you won't hear me or see me, but I'll see you doing something. I'd be like, Skull Babylon, were you just? Never mind. Anyway, so like, yeah. But I mean, like the thing is like the idea that especially even the Tibetans knew that you could do this purposely, but like they also like they would. There's like this whole meditation that goes into it where you can release yourself from your body and leave your body and travel, which is actually what happens when you die. So one could actually, by what the Tibetans would describe, this would be a death experience. So it's not just actually projecting yourself. You're actually unconscious, because your consciousness, when your consciousness leaves your body, you are unconscious. So you are technically dead to your body, because your body is no longer connected. I mean, it's connected, but like by this string of consciousness that kind of gets left behind, like a trail of breadcrumbs in Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah,
anyways,
the silver cord, as the
and so like you have this this experience where you get to like experience kind of like the first part of what Tibetans would describe as death, where you're actually able to just freely roam about the universe and see what's out there.
What's kind of interesting about this, Vaughn, is that what's interesting is that I'm just learning about like lucid dreaming and astral travel, and I'm kind of figuring out that I've done this like the majority of my life, which is pretty. If I could raise one eyebrow by itself, I would. But because it's kind of like that thing that you're talking about, like, is this like, it's like when somebody's getting an operation and they can go outside of their body and watch themselves talk, right?
Yeah.
That's astral travel.
Yeah.
Because when I was going through this period of time, I was going through what probably medical doctors would call, like, depression. I actually would do that. Like, in the middle of conversations, I would kind of, and this is for anybody out there that has depression or just basically is labeled ADD and is, you know,
if you're consciously thinking about dying, you're more than likely going to have that experience than other people. The thing is like people, once you realize that, like you can purposely like think that you're going to die right before you go to sleep, and you can send yourself into an astral travel experience. You have to like literally believe that you're not going to go to sleep, you're actually going to die. And but not in a depressing way, but like in a purposeful way. And this can happen when you're already depressed.
I think it was more, I mean, yeah, along the same lines. I think we're doing that thing about English thing where we're like, you know, same definition, different words. But like what I was feeling, you know, is exactly what you're, not necessarily that I would want to die, but just escape reality. Like I would take myself outside of my body and let my body have the conversation, while my like mind would be somewhere else. Like I could like multitask. And then not only that, but I could caress somebody's face in this other world and then they'd call me, or I would, you know what I'm saying? I could do things within this other place that would manifest within my like realm. But it kind of got, you know, I kind of had to do some meditation practices where I started to ground myself again and really get like back into the body, because it did get a little bit, I don't know, but just building on that astral travel thing, I know that it's possible because I did it for a little while there without even.
I think it's our way of like starting to get in touch back to the way that we're supposed to be. Like imagine if we got to a point where we're capable of using that world whenever we need it, ever.
Yeah. And this brings about the thing, you know, like we can communicate ESP, you know, like we think of somebody, we think of our grandma or something, and then she calls us up, you know, and it's like, hey, grandma, you know, like how did that synchronicity just happen? But there's this other realm that are, you know, with us being interdimensional beings, you know, that realm exists, and exactly, everybody can tap into it.
Yeah, like that's like, again, you know, the big paradigm shifty thing that I have no problem going back to is the idea that literally we are multidimensional beings by nature. What that actually means, that's something that you'll be able to sort of define over time in your own ways, but it does involve these different aspects of the fact that experiences exist through practices, through experiences such as astral projection, even just a dream exploration practice in general. And again, just to clarify, astral projection can be thought of more as the process of meditating and then intentionally going into a dream state lucidly with awareness and being able to like not be confined by physical illusions of this density that we often carry with us into the dream space, opposed to lucid dreaming, which is almost the same thing. The difference is that like lucid dreaming can often sometimes be referred to as like when you become aware that you're dreaming while you're in a dream, opposed to the difference, like I said, of astral projection is just like meditating and not even necessarily falling asleep, like literally going like into like an astral projection state. And again, like if you really get into the deeper stuff with astral projection, I'm not saying I'm an expert, but it's like really, 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 really interesting stuff, because it opens you up to this idea that there are these other worlds, are these other like places that you can visit, and you can actually have two people meditating at the same time, two people astral projecting at the same time, and they can travel in these spaces together. And in the same way, you know, you get like a couple, like a boyfriend and girlfriend, like walking to a park like on a Sunday afternoon. You could have like two people like astral traveling together and then like come back with like a shared memory, a shared consistency of these other realms, of these other places. I know, it's incredibly beautiful. I love the idea. It's very like poetic. But again, it's not something that like anybody listening to this show is an expert at. But it is something that we can. I would be very surprised. I just know it's just like such a rare thing. If someone is an expert at astral projection, or at least feels they are, then please feel free to call into the show. And anybody else, feel free to call into the show. But yeah, like the fact that these possibilities exist bring me back to the idea that it should give us encouragement to explore practices like meditation. I was just saying, it encourages us to explore practices like meditation and just like health in general, so that we can have these experiences. Have I ever had an out-of-body experience? Well, I've had like, you could say semi-astral projection experiences, but again, like, because I mean, I've had an out-of-body experience just, well, yes and no. Probably not in like the traditional sense. Like, what are you kind of asking, Vaughn, or what are you looking for?
I'm asking what someone else in the chat asked. for you.
Oh, true. Monica did ask that. Well, has anybody else had like a straight up out of body experience? Because
I have.
Okay. Is that something you want to share, talk about?
Well, and I think that I cannot, to define these a little bit more too, like I cannot lucid dream. Like I can't go into my dream and say, ooh, you know, like I want to fly, or like I want to make this world, like I want to walk on water and like go, and then I'll melt into this space and like become a fish, or like, you know, like that's lucid dreaming. You're like aware of it, and you know your dreams become this like play state, you know. But what I can do, which was really weird at first, was I can really at any point at this point in time go outside of my body and travel to anywhere. It's not really, like I always see my toes sitting at the top of my pineal gland. Like, I don't know, like I never go completely outside of my body because I feel like if I ever went completely outside of my body, I would die. But there's this, the thing is the spirit exudes so far beyond your body that there's no limitation. Like literally I could go like anywhere that I could, but the thing is that I only see things in pieces. And when I do, I have a hard time, when I come back, I have a hard time acclimating with this, like, earthly existence. So, like, for people that are out there that feel, and this is who I'm speaking to, and this is why I feel like I was brought to the show, you know, to give this insight for people who are maybe, like, depressed, or maybe they feel like they don't fit in, or maybe they have ADHD, or they feel like just spacey, like they're, like, not, you know, like with it all the time. That's your interdimensional being traveling in different dimensions. Don't worry. In time, if you start to meditate and things like that, you'll start to understand the implications that comes along with this type of, like, feeling. But I feel like everybody has this ability, and everybody does it subconsciously. They don't necessarily, you know what I mean, like become, like, completely awakened to it. And I think that the less that you ask the questions, the more that it comes to you, because I never really asked to, like, have this. It just happened. So, and it was, I have to say, it's been pretty, like, what normal society would define as, like, strange. Do you know what I'm saying?
Of course,
like,
yeah.
That's okay. Like, I understand, you know, I understand it. I don't know. That's as much as I can do it.
Yeah. No, it's always interesting because I mean, just we are like these other multidimensional beings coming from places where like it's not as dense and vibrations and density and all that and yada yada, and like we're trying to use words, just like small little things to try and explain as best as we can these experiences. But that's like part of our infinite mission is to be able to do that. So I'd love to be able to hear from some other people. We do have other people who are in the queue. So I'm going to bring on a couple other people and they can add into this conversation. So I'd like to move along from the topic of astral projection unless they particularly want to get into it. Some of the other ideas that did come up in future episodes. On episode 15, we had the idea of the topic of psychedelics and perception. And in episode 16, we talked about sacred geometry with Charles Gilchrist on that episode. So that was a pretty cool episode. Go back and watch that. Charles Gilchrist is an amazing man with lots of knowledge. And, so perhaps we'll talk on those. And, okay, it looks like that other caller dropped, but we do have another caller as well, and this is Jess from Paradigm Shift, Connecticut. So, Jess, feel free to, add in your voice to this conversation, and we'll go from there. So, Jess, if we're ready, we're going to bring you on to Paradigm Shift Radio. Here we go. Hello, Jess?
Hello. Hey.
Hey. Not too bad. Thanks for calling in. Did you have anything in particular you wanted to add into this conversation?
I feel as if I'm always astral projecting. Like.
Interesting.
Oh man, but so I guess it kind of just started, you know, and it just kind of happened, and then, you know, it's like, kind of like, I don't know, it's strange. I feel like ever since, like, I ate a Taurus or something, and it's really hard to really put into exact words, but I feel like ever since, like, this moment, like, for instance, this is a good way for me to describe it as well. When I was a freshman in high school, I saw ska, like SKA, written around school, like on the walls and stuff, and I had no idea where it came from or like what it even meant. And then I met my first love, John, who lived next to my elementary school. I'm sure you've like heard some story about that at some point. And yeah, so like, you know, I really wanted ska at the time, you know, like I want ska kind of deal. So then like I discovered this word ska, which then brought upon like all these different experiences and all of like these different patterns and formations for me to like live and grow off of. And then eventually when like you're enveloping onto like a new cycle sort of deal, it kind of like turns into like a play on words on top of itself. So then like instead of wanting ska, it kind of like turned into ayahuasca, sort of. It's kind of hard for me to put into like exact, definite words at like this point in time, I guess. But like, if that's just like the best way that I could like really describe it and like get it down per se. And yeah.
Jess, I was gonna say, shout out to all the people who are also cancers, because we're like in the month of Cancer right now. I think I mentioned that before, but new moon on Cancer, within Cancer, coming up on what, Monday? Is it, Jess? Is that?
Yeah.
Nice.
I was born on new moon.
Cool.
Yeah.
What do you know about new moons? Like, what do you think of them?
It's really hard to
I was talking about this the other day.
I don't know. It's like
renewal, new intentions, cycle.
Yeah, but it's like there has to be like the sliver. You know what I mean? Like there has to be the sliver there before there's like a new moon per se. It's like I don't even like know how to like really even put it into words. Like right at this moment. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah.
I do.
Go ahead, Jocelyn.
I use new moons as because new moons symbolize a new beginning. So a lot of the times I'll do like where I like give gratitude for everything that's manifested, and then the new moon that's coming in, like the new moon is in Cancer, so I'll do like a detox bath, and then because it's a water sign, and then what I'll do is I'll like start to imagine what type of new things I want to manifest into my life. And that's like one of the practices that I always do is like new moon and full moon practices. I always make sure to either like thank and be like super thankful during the full moon about manifestations, and then in new moons I'm always like, okay, the slate is wiped clean. Thank you for everything that you've done. Like here are my goals that I need to meet for this like new like part coming about. Like that's what I've always seen it as. Like the new moon.
It's always good to write down intentions on full moons or new moons, and then to check back in with them. Literally, just write down like 7 things that you want to accomplish, so to speak, and just sort of do that. And again, going back to the idea of writing stuff down actually makes a difference. So that was just kind of something, I mean, I just know with the new moon coming up, I just sort of wanted to bounce that idea off there. Going back to the idea of like the topics within the episodes that we were sort of talking about, sacred geometry is something that I think is incredibly worthwhile going over. And for me, that is like a huge thing in terms of just being able to understand how this reality is infinite. When you understand how sacred geometry works, for me at least, it actually made sense of infinity. Prior to me really studying sacred geometry and infinity, I'm just like, what? Like, how does that work? Like, I don't understand. How can it just not end? But when you look at sacred geometry, you look at the idea of like shapes fitting inside other shapes. Again, the simple example I refer to is like when you take what is commonly referred to as the Star of David or the star tetrahedron, the 2 triangles like making a 6-pointed star, and you just realize that fits inside of itself infinitely. And when you realize it does, like that's where it sort of reflects back the idea of like why like the trees look like the same as our veins and the same as our eyes.
Yeah, and also
the micro macro. It's quite simple. It's so simple, but obvious, hidden in plain sight. Go ahead, Jocelyn. Sorry, Jocelyn, go ahead. I think, or who jumped in first there? I don't know.
Jess, you could talk.
Jess, you go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to make like a note. Is like, you know, we like have these names and these formations of like these symbolic like icons and talismans or what have you, and then we also have like names associated with them. I just wanted to like bring up a point that like I noticed like as a young child, like the two people that I knew first that were Jewish was David and then Alexandria, which is interesting. Just like if you take the libraries of Alexandria and like David into like one kind of, and I don't know where either of these people really are. I know that David Chambers like lives down the street, or he used to, and yeah, it's just like I don't know how to even describe it as of yet. I guess you know what I mean, but yeah, that's about it.
But it's significant and synchristic within your life. So that means something.
Yeah.
But as far as the Star of David goes, it reminds me of a Merkaba. Like
exactly,
if you look at it, it's like and like all of these symbols kind of like go within one another. Like they all have the same like just like you were saying, like it has this like thread. Well, actually, all of us were saying this. I'm sure Vaughn is thinking this too. But it's like this common just like thread that like interlinks like all of them. Pretty much.
Like, for anybody listening to this who hasn't fully looked into sacred geometry, look up Metatron's cube, just study it. Literally, just look at it. It'll teach stuff to you. There's stuff that we don't even need to explain. Like, it'll just teach itself to you if you look at it. So, Metatron's cube, Metarons. No, I spelled that horribly wrong. Meta and then Tron. So, Metatron. I think I did it right that time. So, yeah, like Tron the movie, Metatron, which was an awesome movie too. And that movie was all about like the grid bubbles of reality stuff that I was talking about at the beginning of the show, or at least I thought that when I saw it. But anyways, anybody else? Vaughn, did you have anything you wanted to talk about with like sacred geometry, like how sacred geometry is just something that's helped you expand your mind?
Go
ahead, Vaughn.
I just I don't know, like a lot of people kept telling me, you got to draw it to understand it. But it wasn't until recently when I got bored, and I finally did, that like, you really, I don't know, it's different because like you start understanding like what creation must have been like. And that just sounds really trippy, but I don't know. I mean, like you really, you have to really imagine what it would be like for like, since you understand this pattern, like the flower of life is in everything, and like all these other shapes fit inside of all the other shapes all the time, and how like and how perfect it all is, and it's kind of beautiful when you see the grand scale of everything, and you see the small scale of everything, like one split second. That's when you have that awe moment. You're like, oh man. But yeah, like when you first learn about sacred geometry. But like, and later on, we just kind of look at it and we're just like, yeah, that's cool. But some of us, like we still stare at it and we just go, wow, like when Charles Gilchrist makes the new mandala, and we're just like, wow, look at that. That reminds me of finding myself. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's a good idea to keep it around you, to like put it on things, like in the same way that we used to put band symbols on our notebooks and stuff. Like carry sacred geometry around with you. So like I was saying earlier, like we learn all this stuff about mental alchemy, but when we get out into the real world, we forget about it. But like if we kept something on us that reminded us, like what would sacred geometry do bracelet, sort of thing.
I like it.
And just sort of like think about your whole limits, because like just like Thich Nhat Hanh would say, like she would say that pay attention, like always breathe and focus on the now, because if you're not really thinking about what you're doing, you're gonna like manifest like crap. And like when like all the time like we understand what creation is now, we understand all these amazing things. Let's not forget that we understand these things, because now we can apply it and change the world.
Mm-hmm.
So let's keep reminding ourselves. And like I think it's a really good idea to find the best ways to remind ourselves by like literally making it get slapped in our face everywhere we look. And that's why we should get it tattooed on our eyes.
Yeah, I think sacred geometry is good for helping us be in awe of the reality that we are a part of. This is actually kind of a quote that came up in the Journey to Lucidity movie by a friend of ours named Halcyon, and he talks about the idea of like, do I have to understand how this works? Like, no. Like, sometimes the most you can do is just marvel in the beauty of it and understanding that you too are a part of that system that like has created that beauty, and you too are like that beauty as well. Like, we don't think about that, the idea that we are sacred geometry. So I mean, when you look at sacred geometry, it's like, wow, that's beautiful. Like, that's what we are as well, just in ways that we've shaped ourselves into this body and stuff. But I agree. I think sacred geometry, when people see the flower of life, the pattern, and that's why I have it on the buttons, and we've talked about this recently with our friend Kaplan when me and Vaughn had him on a couple episodes ago, and just the idea that when somebody sees the flower of life, it's like a part of their memory. It helps them remember. They're just like, wait a second, like that's like incredibly drawing my attention and they're just like want to find out more about it, sort of thing. So yeah, like sacred geometry is a very powerful symbol. It is very authentic. It is very close to the roots. And just like math is the language of reality, and math is like the things that add up to create the proportions and the ratios that structure sacred geometry as we see it in this dimension.
I meant to bring this up like earlier at some point. I don't know why I never really did, but like just like the structurized like templates of houses, and how like we live in like a society now where like most houses you see that are brand new are similar to exactly like the exact same as like the one next to it, sort of deal. So to really like consciously like decide to do that maybe is like making conscious decisions very similar as well. So let's say, for instance, you have like a house with like a Fibonacci like spiral staircase, like your thought patterns inside your bubble or your Merkaba field or whatever you really want to call it picks up on like these small in-tune details. Like let's say you have a bookshelf that's like built into your wall, or like drawers that are built into your wall that don't really like make much comprehensible sense at a young age, because you can't quote unquote perceive dimensions and physical planes as well as you do when you get older, per se. So it can like literally look like people can pull drawers out of the wall that pull things out of nowhere, per se, in the same respects that like some houses have large angles to them. Like let's say your upstairs room has 90-degree angles, or not 90 because that's not even whatever, and like 70-degree angles going across, making a point in the middle. Like let's say, for instance, a two-family house in California and like a two-family house in Connecticut.
California.
Yeah. But let's say, for instance, like there's houses that like look kind of almost the same, per se, and this is hard for me to really like get out, but it could like develop and make the perceptions of the children similar in the formation of the sacred geometry that's portrayed around them in their atmospheric perceptions of their home, sort of.
Interesting.
I don't know how to like really I don't know, it's really interesting to me. Like
I got
the first time that I really remembered the flower of life, like for instance, was like my ceiling fan as a kid. Like like the petals, on how like the petals looked, like that's kind of like how my ceiling fan was as a kid. And my mom like actually showed me how to like draw them at a really young age as well. She learned it from like her her father, who was like the head accountant for General Electric, per se. And it's really interesting because like we hold on to like these things like sacred geometry, but where do these things of sacred geometry actually originate from? Like, what are the ideas that are put into our own existence to make these things kind of exist? Like it's really hard for me to like really, but I'm doing the best I can.
We're all the same. Yeah. Like totally. Like I like the idea that when you just look at nature and you look at all the different flowers and all the different like tree styles and realize that they're all like really, really similar to each other, just with like slight changes to them that just birth them and bloom them in this different direction, which is like kind of like how it is with humans. Like we're all really, really similar, and then we're all like uniquely like blooming in a different way just because like slight changes in the sacred geometry. But at the base structure, we're all sort of structured upon the same blueprint or something along those lines, if you want to think about it that way. But yeah. I was going to say, we can jump upon some other episodes here, some other topics moving along. And we got about 20 minutes left in the show. And, remind me, Jocelyn, to give you enough time to plug the page that you would love to promote. If you want to just do that now, go ahead.
Absolutely. You know, I wanted to say thanks, Jess. That actually, it repeated what we were kind of talking about in the last episode 53. Brendon, you were actually talking about that, how like, you know, like houses are all structured in a way that they don't like expand the mind. So that was pretty interesting. But yeah, if we're going to hit some of these subjects, we have like 18 minutes left. And I really did want to ask about, you know, journey to lucidity and like some of the things that
everybody here has seen it. So
so I mean, if we could like expand on that to like help the audience. I don't know how much time you want to like donate to that. So if you want to keep going with like going through the episodes, or if you want to jump right into the questions, like it's up to you, whatever you want to do. And Vaughn, thanks for being out.
Yeah, thanks for everybody for being here. I'm I mean, since you brought it up, let's just sort of like hit upon that, and again, like just when plug your page right now, like Strength to Awaken. I just want to make sure that people know that you have an awesome page too.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, so I have you know, basically Strength to Awaken is a platform.
Sorry, go ahead. No, I think Jess was just talking to someone else. Go ahead, Jess.
Well, I'm kind of busy right now. But...
Okay, I'm just gonna. Don't worry. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I just got interference, but no. Okay, so Strength to Awaken is kind of like Paradigm Shift. I like to offer it as like a platform for people to, you know, like grab resources to grow and kind of, you know, be the source where they come to awaken, just like Paradigm Shift. So, but I will definitely post that in the link. I'm doing a bunch of meditations for Global Meditation Movement. It's basically this movement. I'm trying to sum it up to basically get 1% of the population to join together to meditate and basically change the world into a paradigm of peace, love, and happiness. So, you know, if you're looking to learn meditation habits or sources of people who, you know, like people like Paradigm Shift and other people, you know, I'll give the link to my page. I'm also going to be offering health coaching soon through my website that I'm just doing the finishing touches on, so that'll be cool. But anyway, so getting into and back into, you know.
Just like adding on to what you said, I was just going to say the Earth We Are One group, just a shout out to them as well, and I posted a link in the live chat. Check out that, and through there you'll see the event information for the global meditation stuff that they're doing that Jocelyn will be involved with, and anybody can get involved with that. So yeah, just check that out stuff. Big plug to anybody who supports the show and helps get more word out there about Paradigm Shift. So with 15 minutes left, sure, let's go with that. I mean, like I said, Jocelyn, you've seen the Journey to Lucidity movie, Vaughn's seen it, and Jess has seen it as well. And Jess, I just had you muted for a second. I'll unmute you, just presuming that you're back, and we'll continue the conversation. Now, we'll just mention to people, obviously, facebook.com/journey2lucidity, and you'll find the link there for the Indiegogo campaign. And that's how you get to see the movie right now, and basically think about paying to see a movie in the same way that people like pay to buy books off the internet, so to speak. So basically the same idea as that, and the funds from that are going towards helping support the sequel and helping support just like the creation of more art and awesome movies and everything. So I'll let Jocelyn sort of go from here, I guess. Jump into whatever, let me unmute Jess, and then Jocelyn, go ahead and throw a question my way or whatever you guys want to do with this. So
great.
Jess, I'm unmuting you. Sorry, Jess, are you with us now?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. There's just
No problem.
always things happening around here, you know. It's like I'll explain later.
No
sure,
problem.
But, yeah.
Cool. Okay, so Jocelyn, go ahead. Like, ask me a question about this movie. You saw the movie like a week ago, give or take, maybe?
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. And it was definitely it was awesome because it gave you, in my opinion, the bird's eye view of what somebody goes through when they're first awakening. So it's pretty cool. If you want a synopsis of, you know, an experience that is intrinsic and, you know, kind of a thread to unite everything, that would be the movie to do it. But my questions that came about while I was watching this movie is I was thinking, the first thought that came into my mind, Brendon, was, were these questions in the movie, were they premeditated, or did some of them come about in the movie, like, while the movie was going on? You know what I'm saying? Like, were they premeditated,
right,
that you, like, put them all together, or was it, like, in the moment, or, like, both, or, like...
A lot of it was in the moment. Those of you who have seen the trailer for the movie, it's a, you know, decent 5-minute trailer. It gives you the whole idea of where the movie's sort of going, and the premise that it's structured around is the idea that myself as like the observer, as like the journeyer, as myself as Brendon Wolfshield Culleton, who is also like you, the viewer, who is also like anyone, goes through this process where this goddess like gives him this gift of a pine cone, and then so it's me asking people, you know, like, tell me about this pine cone. So I mean, that was premeditated because I knew that like asking a variety of different people about the pine cone would create this interesting collage of answers that I'd have to work with in editing wise. And then a lot of the other questions were generally like on the spot. I mean, you get sort of questions relating to like literally asking people on the spot, like not even like prepping them ahead of time, just be like, hey, like, is this a dream right now? And then you just, in an environment like that, you get a lot of interesting people giving some really exciting answers. And that was just part of the intention, is that I didn't really like know what was going to happen with a lot of it. But yeah, it was pretty cool to see what people responded with. And I think the big thing that makes this movie powerful is the confidence that a lot of people who are interviewed with on camera, the confidence in which they express themselves. Because I think for people who may be new to a lot of this shifty stuff, when you see other people like getting really living it, it just sort of helps you sort of step more into your role and just be like, okay, you know, like this isn't something that I need to be like, you know, I don't have to feel like an outcast for thinking this way. There's other people who are thinking this way too. So yeah, like I'll just, one thing just to conclude this answer, the big intention that I had with this movie was I wanted it to be a bridge between like mainstream culture and people who are in this consciousness culture, this consciousness shifting culture already, who have been doing this information for a while. So I want this film to be able to show to, say, just like some regular person from a town who's just seeing it at a film festival, who doesn't know anything about these topics but knows what a pine cone is, and then watches this movie and it starts like allowing them to expand their mind, start thinking outside the box, and start seeing the things that are hidden in plain sight, so to speak. So yeah, like I said, that was part of my objective with it. So
kind of beautiful because we kind of merged from sacred geometry to, you know, the movie. And basically what you did was you interweaved like one of the most beautiful, vivid models of sacred geometry that's within us, and we can actually tangibly like touch. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and get like a tactile. I love that. But anyway, great answer. Thanks for that. So, like, what are your, like, favorite parts about the film? Like, what are your passions towards it? Like,
there's, I mean, I don't want to say too much just because I don't want to spoil it for people. There were a lot of exciting moments. I'll just mention for people, there's, like, martial arts scenes in it, which is, like, part of the vibe that I wanted to give to it. I wanted it to be more of, like, an adventure film. And martial arts is like part of my nature. It's part of my personality. So you see that in it. There's like us practicing Sadu, which is like a training game a lot of people are already familiar with. The other parts in the festival that I really enjoyed, I like the closing ceremony. I like the parts where there's like the panel discussion kind of closer to the end. Yeah, like any of the stuff where just people were just like being really authentic and just like really because again, like as cool as the stuff was on camera, there's so much stuff that happened off camera. Even just in terms of the martial arts stuff, there's this Asian guy who I met one night, and I intentionally went like without my camera on me, and we were just like training for a while, and we were just doing like crazy Dragon Ball Z stuff, and it was like so awesome, but like none of it was on like camera. It was just like so real and everything.
And
so
that's
yeah, some of my favorite moments weren't on camera.
Yeah. So, and what I wanted to ask also is, like, that's perfect, because, like, did you feel that you were cultivating, by, like, getting all these other people's answers and things and, like, living, you know, vicariously through this, like, body that would embody this general audience that would be watching this film, did you feel like further transformation or like a transition within yourself that expanded by even making the film itself? And what kind of things did you realize by going through that?
Yeah, I did definitely grow a lot doing the film, but probably not in the way you would think. This film, kind of going into it, and I'll just mention, like, Vaughn or Jess, if you guys have a question, just sort of prep one ahead of time, and I'll throw it to you guys. And we got about 8 minutes left, so what I was saying, though, the way how this film made me grow, when I was going into this movie, I sort of had this idea of having more scenes that involve somewhat acting in them. You'll notice the very first scene in the movie is sort of a scene that I had like framed up. It's situated, and that's the scene where I'm given the pine cone, and it sort of sets the premise for the rest of the movie. My original idea going in was to have similar scenes like this throughout the entire film, and to have like more acting involved and specific people sort of recurring throughout it, and like certain scenes, because I had like this idea for the script and everything. I had to drop that pretty early on, and there were some parts where, like, working on the film, it was really stressful, and it was the environment itself was very overwhelming, and I was trying to bring these, like, straight lines into this festival that was just, like, by nature, nothing but, like, curves and stuff, and I had to choose. I was like, all right, we filmed the first scene, we got that part, that's important, and then after that, I'm just like, I can't do what I originally planned to do. So then after that, I'm just like, all right, you know, like, universe, like, I'm just going to go around and I'm just going to film a bunch of stuff, and I'm just going to, like, do what I can, and by the end of it, we'll edit something out of it. And I did that, and obviously what you see in the movie is not the exact chronological order that things actually played out in, but I mean, that's the magic of editing. That was the intention to begin with, and that's a reflection of, like, the dream-like nature of the movie as well, that, like, time isn't really linear in the same way. But what ended up happening out of the movie, by the time I ended up getting back home into Canada, and if you go back and if you listen to the episode like 40 something, when I got back from the festival and I was talking on the episode, it was the episode when we had Nathaniel Solis and Atlantis King on talking about Creator Course. If you listen to that episode, I was actually like pretty like bagged. I was like beating myself up. I was down on myself because I felt that I didn't accomplish like the movie that I set out to accomplish, and I'm just like, oh, if only I had done this, if only I had done that. And I was just like, damn it, why didn't I do this? And like you know, like that was my one chance and I screwed it up, sort of thing. But then and I know I was saying this stuff to myself, but then even in the back of my head I'm like no, you know, like things happen for a reason, yada yada. But then as I continued to start editing it, it wasn't until I got, you know, maybe like 25% into the movie editing wise, I'm like, all right, you know, like there's something here. And the big thing with editing, I'll just finish this thought real quick, Vaughn. The big thing with editing that I've always found interesting is that it's this idea that once I had filmed all that footage and once I had like gotten home back into Canada, the idea was that within all of the 25 hours worth of footage, a 90-minute movie already existed within it. And my job as the editor, like as a magician, was to like crystallize that and find it and use my intuition to like bring the parts of the story together in a way. And that's why for me as an editor, it was really interesting because like I didn't exactly know how it was going to end. You know, it was exciting for me as I was editing it. I'm like, yo, I want to see like what it looks like when it's done, right? Like, but yeah, that was part of my experience.
So
a big part of my experience was letting go expectations. That was a big part of my experience. Letting go of expectations And
Beautiful.
understanding that, like, the dream that you sometimes have of how things should be isn't always how it's going to turn out to be, but then to still be able to, like, have, not faith, but, well, you can use that word if you want, but trust that the universe is taking you where it needs to be, kind of thing. And it will make you stronger.
Yeah, and it has this bigger idea to it, because the beginning of the movie,
the story is, like,
where
the universe
the
is the co-director of it.
I feel like it's the rest of the movie that really starts to plant, like, it is the movie. Like, the rest of the movie that happens, like, by itself in a natural process, like, I think it's beautiful, because, yeah, it's right. You're totally right. The universe, like, it prevailed in the end and made such a huge, like, thing out of it.
Yeah, like special thanks to that's what I was saying. Special thanks to the universe. The universe was like the co-producer of this movie. Like when I said, I'm just like, all right, like, I honestly don't know what this is going to look like when it's done. Universe, like,
3 minutes left. I have one more
happens.
question that I need to ask you for this
Go
audience.
Go ahead.
I need to get this out. So, what I want to know, okay, so yes, you have this awesome movie. Go out and watch it, everyone out there who hasn't. But what I want to know is, what are you going to be doing with this money, right, that people are going to be kind of like helping you along with? This is because I look at it as they're giving money, like, thank you for providing this to the public, like, as a gratitude, as an extension. Mm-hmm. But what are you doing now that people should be, you know what I'm saying? Because you're doing big things here. Tell them why, you're worth this gratuitous gift.
I like to think of people who contribute to my work as kind of being like sponsors, sort of thing. It's hard for me to always say like what I'm doing next, kind of thing. It's kind of like this project. I had this huge plan. I didn't know exactly how it was going to turn out. So I mean, if you've seen the consistency of my work, you know that I'm not just going to like quit and walk away. Like, this is something I'm an indigo kid. I'm whatever. I'm here for the long haul, big missions ahead, and I want everybody to get involved with it in as much as a way they choose to be, as much as they choose to engage. And that's what Paradigm Shift is. It's this total community that's asking a little bit more of you. It's asking you to get engaged. In addition to the money being raised going back into the Paradigm Shift community, whether it be to help pay for radio costs, because I mean, again, like, a lot of the stuff that I do with Paradigm Shift Radio is coming out of my pocket in terms of website costs, radio costs. Anybody who likes this show, who finds any value out of it, consider donating at GoFundMe.com/Paradigm Shift Radio to help pay for the bills for that. And again, like, the money being raised from this movie specifically is going towards a sequel, because it takes a lot of work. I mean, I'm not, obviously not everybody's too familiar with the amount of time that goes into editing, but if you were to do some math and everything like this, like, you could easily price this movie at being like valued at like close to like over like $30,000 if you're looking at the amount of editing that actually like goes into a project like this. But again, like, it's just one of those things. It's part of my dharma, where I'm just like, this has to be done. I know I need to do this. There's certain things that need to happen at certain times. And that's like actually kind of an exciting thing that people can think about. Like, the idea that there are a series of events that are going to happen over a period of time that need to happen for other things to happen. And we are helping like initiate those. So anybody who watches my movie gets to support me in just doing what it is that I got to do, and creating new media to share with people and to inspire them and all that. And I'll just say, guys, if you're interested in doing a hangout after the show, there is that possibility. I'm not sure if I'll stick around for it, but stay tuned for the link on Facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Radio. That's the Google After Party hangout that we normally do. And with only 45 seconds left, sorry to like not get everybody's questions in or whatever. Maybe we continue this another time. So I'll just say thanks to everybody here. So thanks, Jess. Thanks, Vaughn, and thanks, Jocelyn, for joining us here for this 1-year celebration. And thank you to everyone listening. Like, I'm just like, round of applause. Yay. Like, we did it, guys. Like, 1 year. Like, woo. Like, blow on, like, the party things and get the party hats on and stuff. So, anyways, 20 seconds left in the episode, and I'll just wrap this up just by saying check out Facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Radio, Facebook.com/Journey to Lucidity. Find the link for the Indiegogo campaign in the chat there, and also in the show notes. And please contribute to watch the movie and help shift the future. So the shift is us. And Jocelyn, Vaughn, Jess, any farewell message you guys would like to share before we hit the outro music on this?
Oh, yeah. You guys go ahead.
Did you like how I messaged you with the beginning before it actually happened? Yeah, I'm sure you did. That's kind of cool, huh?
Thanks, Jeff. All right. Vaughn, did you have something to throw in there?
Nah, I'm good.
Okay.
I just want to say, try to spread love wherever you go. That's like my thing,
yeah,
you know?
Totally.
But that's it. And I love all of you for listening, and even though I can't, like, touch you and give you a smile, just know that this is me, like, sending all of the love in the world that I could give. So
remember that everything happens for a reason.
There you go.
Especially when things suck. There's a reason. Go get that.
Yeah.
Much love. Everything
be a part of that
reason.
All right. Cool, guys. Well, thanks for being whatever reason brought you onto the show. Thanks for listening to it, and stay tuned for future episodes. So on behalf of Paradigm Shift Radio and ParadigmShiftCentral.com, I'm Brendon, a.k.a. Skull Babylon, YouTube.com/Skull Babylon. Find me there. Check out my stuff, and be a part of the shift. So thanks again, guys, and until next time, we will see you in the future. So bye, internets. Bye. Bye, internets. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.